Hello and welcome to the late word on Spurs. So sorry, twice in a row. If you're with us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms, we're of course on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook too, and we return on the back of our first defeat in the Europa League. Look, I've got to say, that game had a bit of absolutely everything. Chaotic. I mean, if you sort of going in my household, that was just the start of it, the way it ended. But honestly, absolute crazy game out in Turkey. We'll be breaking it down with these wonderful returning regular panelists on Last Word on Spurs. I'm joined by returning conductor, instructor, runner, Lee McQueen is back on the show, as is Oracle himself, Jason McGovern, and the wonderful Marlon over at the Spurs Kings returns on the back of what's a big European journey for him here on Last Word on Spurs. He just don't know about it yet. Like I say, we are back to review Galatasaray 3, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Crazy night in Istanbul for Spurs, where I think at one point, to be honest with you, it could have really got out of hand. But some positives, some negatives. I think, look, if we're going to be pretty honest with you about it, given the nature of our start to the group, many would argue that maybe it allowed us tonight to be able to rotate and be able to give some players an opportunity. Some would maybe question whether those players took the opportunity. But Maka, I am going to open up with you because, look, as bad as it was at times, I thought the players actually showed some tremendous spirit in the second half. And I want to try and, if I can, make that really the lasting memory. I mean, some teams with 10 men may have lost by more. I mean, you are more of a glass half full rather than a glass half empty person. I think I've got it around the right way. Maka, how do you summarise what we've just witnessed in Istanbul on the back of what I would say, a crazy game, crazy result, and it had a bit of everything?
Yeah, it was crazy. All them things, really. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Still on the evening, as our friend King Hoddle would say in the chat, from our thrashing of Villa at the weekend. Good evening. Look, and I also want to start the show by shouting out to Will Lankshear. I've already seen some grief in the chat. I mean, you are having a laugh if anyone's giving him grief. The kid is 19 years old. He scored his first goal, senior goal for Tottenham Hotspur away at Galatasaray. And look, yes, he got sent off for 2 yellows, being enthusiastic. Come on, don't start giving that guy grief. Don't be that person. Don't be that guy. Yeah, he's one of our own, and he's done well tonight, and he's made a mistake. So big up, Will Lankshear. Well done on the goal. That's the positive stuff from the goal perspective. Look, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, I said it in the chat, didn't I? Beforehand, people give me grief. Like, their attack on FIFA, right? On what do you call it now? What do kids call it? FC25. It's insane, right? Their attack is absolutely insane. And I'm giving it large on the group right before the game, going, mate, their attack is insane. People are laughing at me. Their attack is insane. They've got a £120 million striker playing for them up top. And he could have had, what, 6? The bloke could have had 6 today, Osimhen. So we definitely got away with one. Some bad points, some good points. I thought Dragusin was terrible. So his agent needs to pipe down a little bit now. So I thought it was absolutely shocking today. To be fair, I thought we played a couple of really good games before that. Maybe he's tired. Forster, wow. I mean, again, he made some. This is the batshit game, isn't it, Rick? He made some wonderful saves, and it was just absolutely horrific. I mean, look at that still there for our viewers, our listeners. Where we've got a still up here. He's just literally run past the ball. He's just flapped at it. It's gone through his legs. How they didn't score is absolutely beyond me. I think, weirdly enough, just criticised. I think Dragusin blocked the shot. So some absolutely god awful defending, god awful performances from some of our players, but some really good stuff as well. I mean, when Rodrigo Bentancur come on the pitch, I thought it was absolutely outstanding. It didn't feel like we had 10 men. I was just saying in the green room, which turned purple, Rick, the amount of time we've been waiting. We were just saying in the green room before that it didn't feel like we had 10 men because we'd been playing with 9 men previous to that. The way that we were playing, it felt like we had 9 men. So I thought Rodrigo Bentancur was outstanding, and I thought Dominic Solanke was absolute class. That finish was absolutely brilliant. They made a difference. So, yeah, I mean, it's a weird one. I think you and I said on the show that we did with the boys Sim and Ben earlier this week, we're not that worried about the result. But when it gets to the day, you start
you
thinking,
want to win. You want to win. You want to win.
Yeah, you want to win, don't you? You want to win. So yeah, look, it's a shame. Absolutely. Am I distraught? Am I pulling my hair out like Costa? No, of course not. But what I am doing is I'm looking towards Ipswich now at the weekend, thinking, okay, make sure that we follow that bad performance up with something that's going to give us 3 points for that international break.
Oh, man, yeah, that's spot on, Lee. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Look, some know me that I can get very hysterical and emotional when it comes to games. I know Jason's going to say and laugh at me, say, but Rick, it's a cup game. Why are you not emotional? Why are you not hysterical? I think the way we started the group, and this might really be controversial what I'm going to say here, I think this allowed this game to be a bit of a free hit. That might come back to bite me because I know Jason's going to come back in the show and tell me what we've got to come in the Europa League, which might make this game really crucial that we didn't pick up maximum points or at least get a point. But I'll come to Jason in a second. Miles, I want to bring you in. Love to be back on Last Word on Spurs. I think it's the first time you've got Lee and Jace together. Good luck. Yep. Not really going to need it because you're amazing and we love you on this show. It was a mad game. Let's be honest about it. Look, Gala really bossed most of it, to be honest with you. Osimhen at times just really too good. And then after Lankshear got sent off, I think it was a concern about, would it be a racking up of the numbers in terms of how many are they going to get? Because there were times throughout the game where Gala were threatening to run away with it. But look, to be honest with you, this is the most craziest element of that game. Spurs actually did not come far off from snatching an unlikely leveller. So again, you probably put that down to add to the long list of thrillers so far in Andy's reign at Spurs. I mean, how did you view the game? How did you view the result? Feelings on the game for you, Miles, and takeaways?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, I feel like Lancashire tonight. I'm getting my debut with the first teamers. So, first of all, thank you, right? So, hopefully I don't get sent off later. However, I looked at it like this. When it got to half time, I was really concerned that I was coming on this show because I'll have to admit, I was fuming. But I was fuming because of the starting lineup. I've been one of those all week that have been saying, going to Galatasaray, yeah, it might be a free hit. But what would this do for confidence if we were to get completely battered? Because they've got players in there that have played for some massive clubs, right? Like big European clubs. And, I saw the starting lineup and I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. And especially, look, 4-star, Pedro Porro, Drake Sheena Davis, right? I was concerned at first because there was obviously no pace. Gray, I think, is an experiment at fullback at the moment. I don't think he's working. He's great on the ball, but if you saw that the right winger kept beating Gray every single time. And the same thing happened against City, right? And I think, for me, if he's going to be a midfielder, we need to let him be a midfielder. We can't be playing him at fullback. And that's was my only concern. However, once the sending off happened and Bentancur was on, and I started to see the first teamers, I started to relax a little bit and go, actually, this might not affect them. They technically won the game, all right? So I'm looking at going, if they can show the last half an hour fight on Sunday, then I'm not concerned, right? Because why I'm saying that is, if you look at Manchester City and if you look at Aston Villa, Manchester City made changes against us. They haven't won a game since. Aston Villa made 10. They haven't won a game since. So I know we've got Ipswich next, and it all depends on what McKenna does. But for now, I'm not going to read too much into tonight's game. However, I wasn't very happy at half-time, and I felt like the young players were thrown into Lions' Den a little bit, and we're a team not with leaders at the moment. A lot of people complain we don't have leaders. And to throw them into a game like this with no leaders on the pitch, it showed. And that's why people like, for me, Solanke should have started. I know he's played a lot of games, but I asked everyone this question, and I said to the boys in the green room, if this was a Champions League game tonight, would you have wanted your first team to play? And I think everyone would say yes. So if this was next year and we were in the Champions League, why are we not taking this competition seriously? That's my only concern.
Fair points there, Miles. And I say, mate, lovely to have you back on the show. I know it's been a while. We can't thank you enough for coming on. Jace, bringing you in. Look, I think Miles makes a number of fair points there around the integrity of the competition in terms of the team fielded. I've turned around to you and said to you that I, for me, kind of saw this as a free hit given the previous results in the Europa League. And look, in terms of the game itself, I mentioned it there. Osimhen really ripped Tottenham apart in the first half, forced them a couple of real crucial saves. Spurs did improve after the break, despite Lankshear's red card. Finished 3-2. Both sides could have scored more. And I think it's crazy when you think, mad to think at the end there, Gallagher hanging on. I mean, it's just crazy. How did you sum that game up, James? Because I know that you're one that doesn't like dull games. I mean, that was not a throwback to our previous Europa League games, was it, James, to be fair?
Well, I'm just trying to work out what game we looking back on. Because you've come in so late that we've played about 3 games since then, mate. We've just played Rangers, haven't we?
Are we through? Are we through? Have we done it? Are we qualified?
Where your Christmas was?
Are we qualified? Are we through?
This is next season already. We won it
my God! What? He's still here? I'm joking. Carry on. I'm joking. Carry on.
Yeah, well, I mean, at 3-1 down to 10 men, you feared it could get really bloody. But in a strange way, I wasn't surprised we looked better with 10 because, without being critical of Lankshear, as we saw also in Hungary, which is natural at the moment, he struggles to hold the ball up like a proper striker does, and I'm not going to have a go at him for that. He's taken his goal and that. So when Solanke came on, you had a bit more hold up. But I also was particularly concerned with Bergvall, who was just miles off it all night. And so by bringing Bentancur into midfield as well, it felt like we played the first half with 10 men, or certainly, half a man down type of thing, because Bergvall on the night looked miles off it. Tried to play, but so often lost the ball, pretty much lost every duel, was slow and ponderous on the ball, left huge spaces in midfield. So the fact that we were a little bit tighter. So I actually think, like I say, it felt like we played with 10 men all night in a strange way. So it wasn't surprising. But, it was disappointing in the end because Kulu actually had a little bit more time to try and place his shot. But, let's be honest, they've had, 28 shots at goal to our 5. So the fact we've only come out of it with a 1-goal deficit, we can't ignore the first hour and say, well, we played well for the last 30 minutes. At 60 minutes, it could have been 7 or 8. I mean, the first half was bad. And then in the first, 4 or 5 minutes of the second half, we could have conceded 4 in that 5 minutes. So, I said in the group, we need half time. And you think, right, regroup, have a little bit of a rethink. I would have perhaps made the change even at half time to bring Pepe on in place of Bergvall at half time, but we didn't. And then, we was all over the place those first 10 minutes of that half. So, but it wasn't a free hit for me because I kind of want to get the qualification done as quickly as possible. I thought with Galatasaray away, Ipswich at home, without dismissing Ipswich, I think if we'd have had, say, Bournemouth away at the weekend, you could have maybe had a little bit more understanding, but home to Ipswich, you think we should be able to get across the line. So, my worry is that we go into, the next home game's a tough one with Roma. It's the toughest of the 4 home games. And you don't really want to go into the January games still needing those last couple of points when you've got Arsenal and Newcastle in January. You've potentially got 2 legs of a semi-final. You've got possibly 2 FA Cup ties in January, and you've still got 2 European games in January. So, and you've also got Everton away in January. So, January's a hell of a month where you ideally wanted to use the last 2 games and really rotate and rest. So players were up for the really big games in January. Whereas, Lankshear sending off now means Solanke's got to play the Roma game. And that's on the back, I think, of the Manchester City game and things like that. So, just further down the line, if we could have at least got a point tonight, had we got the point, played the first hour, ideally got ourselves maybe 2-1 up or something, and then had to hold on. And if we'd have dropped a point or ended up with a point, so be it. But it's a tough, I don't doubt that we'll qualify, but it just adds complications further down the line.
It's interesting, Macca, because look, I think with Ange on that team lineup, how can I put this? He's down if he does, he's down if he doesn't. There'll be fans that'll be screaming saying, should have gone stronger. There'll be fans screaming that he should have gone weaker. I think at the end towards that game, you see Decky go down and you think, oh my God, what are we doing introducing Decky? When with no disrespect, we know how big the Ipswich game is on the weekend. It's an opportunity to push ourselves really on the league. And I think the problem is many will think it's a loser mentality to not be taking one game at a time and acknowledge the threat of Galatasaray and not put out more of a stronger side and, forget Ipswich. It's another game. It's another day. Did Ange get it right, Lee, for you in terms of the selection, or is that always going to really become, an opinion poll? He's not going to be able to please everyone, is he, with that selection? Because we're all going to have different views on what a priority is.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that, and that's healthy. That's why we do these shows. That's why we go down a pub and have a few beers together and chat. And, that's football fans, isn't it? Just in us four, that all of us are not concretely agreeing with it. I mean, for me, I'm with you on this one, Rick. Yeah, for me, he got it right. I would have played all of the four, as we call, the teenagers. Obviously, Mikey Moore weren't there, but I would have. I think that's going to come back to help us later on in the season, or maybe later on in their development. Archie Gray is not a left back. We all know that. But actually playing Destiny Doggy there today, to maybe get a point or to get all three at Galatasaray, and then Destiny not being available for the next couple of games because he's played too much football, that would definitely have been a risk that I've been taking. Look, you can argue that the management team at Tottenham Hotspur have messed up with not taking Jed Spence, because he would have been he would have been something. Or the club and the recruitment team have completely messed up by not getting a backup left back, because that's really the deeper problem, right? Because we should have had a natural left back to come in and fill in for Destiny. But actually for tonight, in terms of the actual game, it's interesting hearing Marlon and Jace, actually, because you start thinking slightly differently. I'm thinking, oh yeah, actually, maybe we should have gone all out for this game type thing. But actually, the away form that we've had and the amount of points that we've accumulated so far, and our next game in the Europa League is, I think it's Ipswich. Sorry, I don't know how you say that. Elfsborg. Oh,
but I think it's Roma. I must add, I think Roma are next, aren't they, Jace? I think you said, I think Roma are next.
They're home games, right?
You're right.
Roma and Ipswich, whatever, are home games, right? So at the end of the day, I'm actually looking at my other screen because I'm trying to figure out, because no one's actually told me, and I can't figure it out. I'm on Sky, I'm on UEFA, I'm on bloody Paddy Power, trying to figure out what is the scenario. So I know the top 8 qualify, right? And then I know from the 9 to the 24th, they go in, they get an extra game. We definitely don't want that. What I'm trying to understand is, out of the top 8, does it matter if you finish top or finish 8th?
No.
Because it doesn't matter. No. You coming out of that and then you get in there. What difference does it make? So if that's the case, I'm happy with what he's done tonight, because I think going into the international break with another 3 points above potentially Arsenal and Chelsea and Forest, we could actually be third, because all of them teams are playing each other. So, and I know it doesn't work like that, but actually, if we're going into that international break, third in the Premier League, quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, 5th in the Europa League table, where it don't matter, you can still be 8th. And there's a couple of people, Natalie and a couple of other people in the chat, making some points about rotating. For me, rotating is fantastic, because it means that, for example, Ben Davies, getting the games that he's had so far, he doesn't play like that against Villa if he hasn't had them games before in the Europa League and so on and so forth. And I thought, for the whole team struggling defensively today, I thought Ben, I didn't see the first half properly, as you know, because I was picking up my children. But by all accounts, Ben did better than Dragusin. Maybe I'll make that point. But the point I'm making is that these players coming in and playing games, it is really, really important. It's one of the things that we didn't have last season at all. Under Conte, we didn't have it at all, because we didn't have European football, because they kicked us out for having COVID. So we didn't have enough games almost to be able to rotate and to get people playing. So I think it's actually a good thing. And look, yes, we've lost. So losing a game is not, I'm not happy. I'm not bouncing off the walls here being happy that we lost. But actually, I can take a lot of positives out of tonight, which is, another 45 minutes under Son's belt for him to come back with in his legs. It's another 65 minutes under Maddison's belt, if you want to look at it in that way. There's a massive improvement needed from Dragusin. We probably found out that Big Fraser made some saves, but still some dodges in there. And then you look at the positives as well. Another game under Archie Gray's belt. This is amazing minutes. He might not have been fantastic, but it's about his development, and that's going to help him. Will Lankshear, even getting sent off, that whole experience, that's going to help him. It does. Everybody knows that bad experiences fuel your good experiences. And he's 19 years old. So now we'll make that point as well. I did say that about Will being 19, but to be fair, Dragusin's only 22. We forget that as well. So there is a lot of youngsters in that team that haven't played. Sorry, Jace, go on, mate.
Yeah, I think just on the team, I think the one area where I probably wouldn't criticise him too much with the selection is actually at the back, because if you had Van der Ven and one of Van der Ven or Romero available, you could have played Ben Davies at left back and played Romero draggers in, Van der Ven draggers in, and still had Porro, or played Archie Gray at right back like he did in the Carabao Cup tie or something. But obviously, with both of those missing, it has left us, because Ben Davies could cover Van der Ven or your doggy normally. Now he's in the team. So, the opportunity to switch and rotate, to rotate between those is now gone, hasn't it? So that's the one thing I felt like a little bit tough on. And your doggy ended up playing a lot of the game against Manchester City. So he's played Porro tonight rather than Archie Gray at right back, and switched him across. But so I feel like it's not a lot he can really do at the back, although he does change the goalkeeper. It was more in that midfield area where, I'd have preferred to have seen Papsar, particularly with it being Gala away. You know what the atmosphere is like and things. I think I'd have just played Papsar from the start. That's all.
Miles, do you think it's a difficult one in terms of getting the right call in relation to that team selection? Because, I mean, different people will view it differently. That's the whole thing about podcasts and about fans in general. We're all going to have a different opinion about maybe the priority of where that game is. And the thing is, look, if we go and beat Ipswich at the weekend, I'm sure many might say, look, that was the selection justified. But Jason makes a very fair point, which, again, maybe feel that some are failing to recognise that we've got some tough games still to come in Europe. We have got AS Roma coming up. You'd say maybe Elfsborg is the more favourable fixture, but Spurs are still going to need to get a few points at least in order to rubber stamp their qualification. So what's your feeling in relation to the selection? You touched on it earlier. Is it a down if you do, down if you don't, if you're Ange Postecoglou, really?
Of course, look, if it works tonight, we're all sitting here, happy as pie. No one really says anything, and, we all move on. But the fact is, it has gone wrong. And look, the first 60 minutes, we could not sit there and not criticise it for what it was. It should have been 7, 8, 9. We were lucky. It was actually only 3-1. However, I'm just looking at it going and that's why I said the biggest positive out of it was at the end, and that's the bit I'm going to look forward to at the moment. And you're right. If we go against Ipswich and we win it, justified. It is justified in some shape or form. But where I'm still going, look, you have to listen to what Jason said about January. We've got some important games in January, and if we don't get the Europa League kind of qualification out the way now, it's kind of going to hit us later on. So I'm kind of like, I'm still 50-50. Look, ask me in a couple of weeks, I'll probably change my mind on this as well. I will flip-flop on this all day long. But right, but as I'm looking at it right now, I'm looking at it going, look, I'd rather him play the first team. It was a good chance to play the first team against a very, very good side. And I think that's the bit that's disappointed me, because I've seen the other games where Ferencváros, where I thought he did get it right, and Carabao, where I thought he got it slightly wrong with too many first teamers. So look, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he don't. But my biggest thing right now, and this is the bit where I'm going, I'm pretty sure he's registered for the Premier League. What in the world has happened to Reguilon? He's the left back. Spencer's not been around. I thought he was registered for the Premier League only. I thought they brought him in.
He's able to train, but
he's able to train. I thought he was registered for the Premier League, because I thought he was only registered for the Premier League and nothing else.
No, he's not registered for that.
I thought that's why they brought him in. I double, because I checked the Premier League register list and he was on there, and I was like, I thought that's why they brought him in really last minute. I know he weren't registered for Europe and everything else, but I thought he was registered for the league.
I think we might need to double check that. I think he has been registered for the Premier League. Definitely, obviously not in the Europa League squad.
Not the Europa League, but more because it was the whole Destiny Doggy thing.
He can feature in the Premier League, Jace. He definitely can. The Europa League, he can't.
The Europa League, he can't.
But I think, Miles, to be honest with you, I think that kind of shows you really where Reguilon is in his thought process.
Yeah.
Got no issue with training with the squad, but he doesn't want him anywhere near first team activities.
But this is where I go and look at someone like Archie Gray, right? Who is, I'm going to say this, he's struggling at fullback. He is completely struggling. But look when he got on the ball for the goal, right? When he's on the ball, he's actually really good, right? And I'm kind of looking at it going, we're not doing him any justice playing him at fullback at the moment. And I'm looking at it going, he's playing in all these he's playing out of positions, but if he's seriously going to be a defensive midfielder for this club, he needs to be able to play there. right? Because at the moment with him, I'm kind of looking at going, if he doesn't start playing there now, how is he ever going to learn? Right? And I know everyone's saying he's getting minutes, he's getting that, but it's kind of like, how many times did he get beat tonight, right? Where the ball's played behind him, he's run past him. I think the first time he won the ball was like in the 70th minute or 80th minute. And I'm like, it's really now concerning me. So for me right now, I'm just looking at going like, yes, the other three in the back four are who they are, but it is what it is. Look, probably tomorrow when I wake up, I'll probably go, you know what, he's justified in what he's doing. But right now, I'm just kind of like, I wish he'd just got played his first team tonight, more of them, because that last 20 minutes was to see that they go out there and compete with Galatasaray, right? They did, and Bentancur, as we've all said, just made a massive difference, massive difference.
Yeah.
And I think he's very key to our midfield going forward. And I think like he has shown that he's very key, because what he can do is he allows Kulusevski and Maddison to play together, where Bissouma can't do that. And Lee said it earlier as well. But when you look at it, he picks the ball up from the defense, he plays it, he's quick, he feeds it through. He doesn't run and get caught out like Bissouma does and puts us under pressure. So it's going to be very interesting over the next couple of weeks of like how this all pans out. But for me, Bentancur tonight, again, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and he's probably
about
put
to
me in
get
a bad
banned,
news.
isn't he? He's about to get banned as well, isn't he, Marlon? I mean, he couldn't make this club. I told you, man, it's a crazy train. He's about to get fucking banned. I think it looks like he, not just on tonight's performance, but I think it looks like he's back to his best, or very, very close to his best now. I totally agree with you that. The ability to be able to take the ball on the half turn, to take it into a small space, technically to get out of that double press at certain times. There was a move that he did there. I think it was 2, maybe even 3 Galatasaray players pressing him. He just done a little maneuver and got out, and then all of a sudden we was on the break, and we're thinking actually we can go score it. And this is when we got 10 men. So I thought he was absolutely excellent tonight, to be honest.
Yeah, I do agree. I think he's probably, I'm not going overboard here, Spurs' best player on the pitch, most certainly during that game. When you look at what he brought to the team, and like Lee said, a driving force going forward. And I think the great shame is that, look, he has to serve whatever he has to serve, because that is the nature of what needs to come his way. But it is an incredible shame, because it just feels like Lee says there, we're getting the Bentancur back pre the ACL injury, where that guy was absolutely flying. He was. So look, what we will just quickly do, and we will just quickly bring in the thoughts of Ange Postecoglou, who has been speaking to the press after the game, and was discussing the valiant efforts on the team itself. But just for the just a fair balance, I must just bring this up. A lot of the comments are coming through with relation to who Spurs have got in terms of the upcoming games in the Europa League. And it's interest of fair balance, I have to state that Roma are 12th in Serie A. They're 18th in the Europa League group at the time of recording this. And Rangers are currently 3rd in what many might argue is a 2-team league in Scotland. So I have to bring that balance into the show, because at the end of the day, when we are saying we've got Roma to come, obviously we've got Rangers to come, obviously these aren't going to be easy games, but we're not talking about sides that are in their absolute peak right now. It has to be said. Now, Ange has spoken after the game and has said on the result itself, I just felt it was self-inflicted. We had a real amount of simple solutions out there to keep the ball. It wasn't that hard. We showed it with 10 men. We just need to be stronger on the ball and play the kind of football we play every week. Maybe it was a little bit more of a challenge, and I made the environment a bit more harder with the atmosphere and the players that we fielded, but there are moments that stick out to me that we were just simply giving the ball away. We were playing right through them quite easily with 10 men, but with 11 men, we had nowhere near the conviction, and that was the most disappointing aspect for me on the night. He was asked about Tottenham's efforts in possession. He said, look, in the first half, we just gave away the ball far, far too much. We lacked composure. We allowed Gala to get a foothold in the game, and we simply paid the price for that. In terms of the up and downs for the youngsters, he said, look, it's not easy when you're playing away in Europe. You can only allow them to learn and grow by exposing them to this kind of process. The 3 teenagers in the starting lineup, I think they'll learn a lot from the game itself, and hopefully it helps with their development in general. Andrew was asked to comment on the potential of Archie Gray, and he said on Archie, I think we'll get so much more out of growth from him because he's not even playing in his best position yet. And it goes back to your point, actually, Miles, that you said that we're not seeing Gray in his favoured position at the moment. And I think, when we do see Gray in that position, maybe that is the real time to judge him, because when you are playing players with no disrespect that are really a stocking filler for the team and filling in a gap, I think it's really hard to make that judgment. But I think, Jay's coming around to you before we do go for the first break. he's every right to be angry, isn't he, by the fact of our lack of being able to keep the ball. I mean, that was the most frustrating thing on the line. You know, we just didn't keep the ball. And I think we had a comment come through here. You have to forgive me, I think from ProShoot, it says, how on earth are we playing better with 10 than 11?
Well, it's what I said, wasn't it? We were better, you know, because it felt like we had 10 men all night. Just on the Archie Gray one, I kind of understand, because with Sarr, with Bentancur, with Bissouma and players like that, I think Archie Gray is better getting game time in some position and he has played at right back before. So he, you know, at least he's getting game time and experience and he's feeling part of a squad. So, you know, I agree that it'd be nice to see him in midfield, but I'd sooner see him at right back than sitting on the bench. And obviously with Bentancur's ban coming up for the Premier League, which will certainly affect Premier League. I don't know if it'll affect Europe unless the Premier League want to extend it across Europe or something because of the nature of it. But, you know, we could well be left with Bentancur just playing European games. So it's even harder then and you certainly then want Bentancur to play those games to make sure he keeps ticking over. So it's even harder to get Archie Gray a spot in midfield, in fairness to them. So you at least it's a chance to see him. But yeah, it's, you know, I think the game was just too much for Lucas Bergvall. Madders didn't exactly help too much either. We were overrun in midfield. Every time the ball went into midfield, we were overrun. We also see when you play, and I've said it before, when Biss plays as the single number 6, you know, Biss wants to run with the ball. And there's nothing wrong with that. He runs with the ball and usually takes people on. But when you're playing just as a single 6 and he loses the ball, you know, Bergvall hasn't yet got the experience of the game intelligence to drop in. Whereas if you see Bissouma go forward or something, Bentancur immediately drops and things. It's just the understanding of the game. So we were constantly outnumbered in midfield, really. And we were losing, you know, the physicality and things like that. I mean, Archie Gray got himself into some good positions as a fullback, but was just out-muscled pretty much every time. So I think with that environment and that, I think he's right, Ange. You do learn a lot, and they do gain a lot from it. But it was a big ask in that environment to go with the 6 line of players that played in those forward positions. It was hard for them, that's for sure.
That's all fair points. So what we are going to do, we are going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. You're going to hear from Ange Postecoglou, who gives you his raw reaction to that defeat out in Turkey. We're joined on this show by Lee McQueen, conductor, runner, wherever he is. Like I say, not Lee's fault. He's at a lot of the home games coming up. So you're going to see him next on your screens for Man City away. I must make that point. He's at every home game. He's also away at when he ever can get there. So, yeah, he's not ducking last one on Spurs, just to be very, very clear. He's at the games, tormenting himself for 3-4 hours.
I get all these payouts, don't I, from the club. That's why I go to all the games. It's a touch. Absolute touch.
Takes his seat home, brings it back. Of course he is. He's in the age club, this man. I'm only joking. South stand, you'll find him there. Block 252, Macca. Remind me, 252. There you go. I know where he is. 252. I know where he is. Jason McGovern's back. The Oracle's on the show, as is Marlon over at the Spurs Kings. Top panel that are taking you through our European journey and last word on Spurs. Look, in terms of that lineup, we briefly touched upon it. We'll just go back into it one more time for those that may have missed that lineup. For Spurs, Fraser Forster continued in goal after excelling against AZ Alkmaar only a fortnight ago. Pedro Porro, Radu Dragusin, Ben Davies, Archie Gray making up the back line. Midfield-wise, Spurs had Bissouma, Bergvall and James Maddison starting his first game in 3 and all coming, obviously, not starting against Villa last week. Lankshear made his second professional appearance in the line and was forced into playing both Son and Johnson either side of him due to the absentees of other wide players. Now, have to forgive me, guys. Didn't see him coming on. I don't think he did come on, but Spurs had Luca Williams-Barnett on the bench, only turned 16, and had he been introduced, he would have been Spurs' youngest ever player. He played for the England under-17s, recently got a hat-trick versus Man United under-18s as well, netted from the halfway line versus West Ham. But to make that point, as Ange actually said in his dispatch after the game, that he had 3 teenagers in that starting lineup, Gray, Bergvall and Lankshear, respectively, both 18 and 19, plus 4 on the bench in Dorrington, Casanova, Olise, Williams, Barnett, and you've got to say, look, an early introduction into hell, you'd say, for some of them. Not quite literally, but we were in Turkey. So that team, as we said, read Forster, Porro, Dragoshin, Davis, Gray, Basuma, Madison, Bergvall, Johnson, and obviously Lankshear. Bench-wise, obviously Sondid plays, to be very, very clear. Bench-wise, Vicario, Austin, Nadogi, Dorrington, Casanova, Kulusevski, Sarr, Bentancur, Olise, Williams, Barnett, and Solanke. And look, we'll come to the opening goal because I have to be honest with this one. Look, we might be fairly critical of our defending on the night, but I have to say, we'll come to you to open up, Miles, on this opener from Gala. I'm not quite sure what we could have done about it. I mean, look, Gray heads clear of free kick, but Yunus Akgun produces a wonderful half volley from 25 yards out that flies past Fraser Forster into the top corner. Was a terrific strike. And look, Forster didn't save any chance, really, of getting a hand on that. It was a phenomenal, phenomenal strike. I'll be ultra critical, Miles. Could we have done better in terms of closing him down? I can see you give me a look there. Am I being too fair? Am I being too biased or unbiased to Gala on that goal?
You're being too fair to Forster. Now, if you look at his movement, right, and this is from someone who's played in goal before, right, he moves too late. And because he moves too late, the ball doesn't really, it only beats him slightly over his hand. Now, if he had moved a lot earlier and he was a lot younger, he saves that. Vicario saves that, by the way, people, right? And if you go watch it again, you'll see what I'm talking about. He moves so late because it's Forster and that's the way he's built. Another decent goalkeeper saves it because it wasn't, I know it was a great strike. It was brilliant. And yeah, I don't think there was nothing most could have done. We could have shut him down quickly, but I do blame Forster for that goal slightly. And I think people right now will go, what am I talking about? But just go watch it for how late Forster moves. And he doesn't move to his left quick enough. And it's just the way Forster is as a goalkeeper. And I personally think if Vicario is in there, he does save it. That was one of my 2 criticisms of Forster tonight. However, it was a great strike, but I just personally think it could have been preventable with a better goalkeeper. And people have to go watch it back to see what I'm talking about because everyone right now will be like, what are you talking about? Because it was such a great strike. But personally, he should have saved it. He just was too slow moving because you see he just stands there and then he doesn't really move to the left, and he should have moved to the left. And you could tell the ball was going in that direction. And it's just here, you can see he's standing there like, as people call him, the tree, and he doesn't move quick enough. So that's my only criticism of that goal. But look, it's a great strike. You can't take it away from him. But to be honest, the other 2 goals, Osimhen's goals, look, at the end of the day, that's what happens when you have a £120 world-class striker in your team. But for me, yeah, it's just and that's why sometimes in a game like this, and that's why I said earlier, I'd have had Vicario playing with that back three, especially if they're going to be playing together on Sunday and not being cold and getting used to each other going forward. But that's just me personally. But in the end, Forster did make some great saves later on. I'm not going to deny that because look, it's 28 of them, right? And he's only letting 3. So I have to give him credit somewhere. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. But me, I think I think you're being a bit kind on Forster for that goal. But great strike. And he had some strikes later on as well. He can definitely hit them. Put it that way. The guy can definitely hit them.
You know what? It's interesting. Lee, what do you reckon? I've only seen it once, to be honest. I've seen it once.
Just really, for all their praise and their attacking and amazing, they're shocking, really, aren't they? If you think about it, right? To your last point there, Marlon, if you think about it, they had 28 attempts, 10 on target, and he scored 3. That's terrible. Like, what are they doing? They can't finish. If that was Spurs, we would be laying into Tottenham. How they can't finish with it. What was it that you lot were saying to me at Leicester? We're useless. We can't finish. We're useless. We've got to bury these things. This is what they were doing. Like, do you know what I mean? If you look at it like that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am, tongue in cheek taking the PRSS, of course. But yeah, I mean, I just can't get my head around how bad we were up until we went to 10 men. I think that's what we said, isn't it? Up until we went to 10 men, we were terrible.
Very weird game. Very weird game. I just wonder on that point, Macca, for you, Forster on that very quickly, Macca, should he have done better? Would Vicario have got near it?
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. I mean, this is, my friend Bev, like, this is what her first song was. You know what I mean? Like, we are coulda, shoulda, woulda FC. Look,
Beverly Knight, when he just occasional drop in there, in a Beverly Knight.
Sometimes in life, you just got to turn around and clap. Sometimes in life, the bloke taking an unbelievable hit. It was an unbelievable hit. He's hit top bins with this unbelievable hit. And look, it is what it is. Sometimes you just got to go, mate, fair play. Yeah. I mean, but you can't let off Forster because he was shocking tonight. Does Vicario get it? I don't know. I don't know. Does my horse come in if it was a different day? I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it, Rick?
Yeah, I just only because Miles made it very clear from his end that he feels that the keeper could have maybe got it if it was Vicario.
Because it doesn't go straight top corner. That's for me, because if you actually watch it, it doesn't go
in real
right
time.
in the top corner. So for me, and how I'm looking, I've seen Vicario make them saves week in, week out.
He does take. But
he is on the left-hand side.
The
next one,
My only.
Look where he is.
He's miles off it.
Go to the still before. My only slight thought on him, which I'd like to see from behind the goal, particularly at pitch level, is does he see the ball at that point?
And that's the question. That's the very
come
question.
Between, you can see two blue shirts in the way. So I think you're right, Marlon. If he gets a clear view of that, then he should save it. But if he doesn't see it until it comes past the second blue shirt, then I can partly understand why then it's too late to react. I mean, the one thing is when you edit clear, you're thinking, go on then, hit it, mate. I haven't seen a volley like that since Danny Rose. When was that? 2010 or something? 13.
Well, he did catch it. He caught it so sweetly. He did it
exactly the same in the second half, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. He tried it again. Yeah.
But
I mean, look.
That's my only thing. I'm not disagreeing with Marlon. Like I say, I think if he sees it all the way, he perhaps should save it. It's just, does he see it when as soon as it's hit, or does it come past the second blue shirt? In which case, then I can partly understand why it's gone in, and even then Vicario would struggle at that point.
And these are fair. Let me say fair points. I mean, look, and there was a kind of.
I'm only giggling. You spend 20 minutes on trying to unpick the
first goal of that first goal. Can I be honest? It's only because I just didn't think Miles was gonna. I didn't think anyone was gonna challenge that goal. I mean, I only watched it once.
Come to the wrong person.
I only watched the goal once, and I thought that looked an absolute, firecracker. I didn't come to Miles and he go.
I bet the XG is 0.0001 or something.
And then I come to Miles, and Miles was like, the goalkeeper should have had it. I was like, really? Just didn't expect the answer. That's why I had to come on and check everybody, thinking, am I going crazy? I believe what Miles says. This man knows his football. He does.
The one other thing to say about it is if we'd scored that, we wouldn't even be questioning the goal.
Of course we wouldn't. It's a wonder goal. Some
would, Jason. No, sorry. Some would be saying it was lucky hit. Some would be saying it won't.
It's a fluke.
Lucky fluke.
I think it was one of our team. Last one Spurs actually criticised Maddison's free kick the other day for not being in the top bin.
Patty, I love Patty. Patty did, yeah, Patty. Sorry, Patty.
Go, Patty.
We love you, Pat. We love you, bro. We love you, bro. I just came to mind. We love you, bro.
An unbelievable free kick. The first one I've seen, direct free kick in my for about 5 years. Since
we waited 3 years for that.
Wasn't it? Was it where Ericsson scored 2 against Swansea or whatever it was, that weird game? And now I've got people saying, but it weren't in the top bins. I'm like, come on, man. Leave me alone. The funny thing is,
when it went in the post, it was in the top bin, but there was so much bend in it, it doesn't
it's true. It's true.
There's so much bend on it.
Right,
okay. On Saturday.
Sorry, Rick. This is all my fault.
Fine, Miles. I mean, look, you want guests to kind of tell it as it is. I should never have thought they're going to come back with different answers. That's the problem. I script the show so well that I just thought, go agree. Right. In terms of the kind of after that, the kind of I think the fans, in retrospect, they kind of got wind that Forster was a bit of a concern. There was non-stop whistling every time Forster got the ball, rushing out at one point to slide tackle Osimhen after a poor back pass by Lucas Bergwell. We'll come on to Lucas in a bit more detail. He's had a difficult night, testing times really for Spurs at the back, but Spurs did respond. And they got an equaliser, which I've got to say, I don't think many actually saw coming, but it was a fabulous move, fabulous goal, I have to say. And it was a superb team goal as Gray chipped in for Johnson, who picked out Will Lankshear to score his first goal for Spurs, volleying the ball into the roof of the net to make it 1-1. Lovely moment for the 19-year-old. I will just add that for Will, he becomes the third youngest goal scorer in Europe now for Spurs, behind Harry Kane and Chris McGrath. He's now also Spurs' 13th different scorer of the season, which, you know, many will look at the fact that it's about spreading the goals across the team. Macca will come on to the sending off later on. It's a mixed night for Will, but in that moment, I'm sure you agree, lovely moment for Will to get that goal, Macca.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. You know, to that moment, you know, coming through. I know people will take me to task on this because we actually bought him, didn't we, from Sheffield United. So you know, people, when I talk about him being one of our own, but he's been in our academy and he's as far as I'm concerned, one of our own. So you know, for coming through the academy, getting the senior opportunity, should we say, this year to stay with the squad and train with the first team, and now start to come on and fits the starts now to start today and get a goal was brilliant. Obviously, he got sent it off, so he's the third youngest player, whatever you just said, to get a goal in Europe. It's probably the first ever to get a goal in Europe and get sent off in the same game. I'm sure you got that stat somewhere, Rick. But yeah, it was a great. And actually, I said it earlier before. You know, the work that Johnson did. To be able to get that ball across to him was very good. You know, so some really good stuff there. It looks easy, but it wasn't. I think you had to track that ball and get that down. And yeah, it was good. It was a good goal. Just on the whistling thing, Rick, as well. I mean, it is a major raucous atmosphere in that stadium, and this is what I keep going back to. People saying I'm chatting shit or whatever, like when I was talking earlier, but. To get that experience, this is the thing.
I totally agree. They'll learn so much from that.
Totally agree. So to get that experience, and for Archie Gray to play left back, and for Will Lankshear and for Bergvall to play in that environment, it wasn't just them that were off it. We were just talking about more senior players that were off it. I mean, I'm sure we'll come on to Maddison as an example, but you know, to get that experience in that scenario will help us later on in the season or later on in development. It absolutely will. And that goal up until the sending off, because that's the thing. That what happens, right? Human nature, most people will read 100 comments. There'll be 99 positive ones and one negative, and that one negative one will affect that individual. And you've got to really hope that that's not going to be the case with Will, because he needs to take all the positives out of that game, what he did well. He was up against it. He was getting roughed up with the defenders, you know, David Sanchez as an example, whatever. But this is, you know, the difference between real top-level senior football and what he's been playing in Premier League 2, as an example. But that's an amazing experience for him. And so I feel for him for getting sending off. I know you're going to come on to it later, but the goal, brilliant for him. Hone that moment, Will. I know you're watching the show, mate. Hone that moment and foster that. Not Fraser, but foster that moment and don't dwell on the sending off, mate, because it happens to the best of us.
Oh, man, lovely words there, Lee. And look, the fans did sing Will Lankshear, he's one of our own. A lovely moment for the teenager. And he brought a silence around the Rams Park, apart from those delighted Spurs fans in the away end. Now, I think it's really important to make this point. You know, there's been a lot of talk about Archie Gray during this show. Now, what the stats won't show you for that goal itself is the work that Archie did in the build-up to that goal, because he gets no assist, he gets no key pass in there, but it's a bit of genius, bit of creativity that allows that move to take place. So I will urge those that haven't seen that goal, please do go back and watch it, because the ball that Gray plays in the build-up to that move is absolutely phenomenal. And like I say, Gray, you could argue, as I think Miles has said on a number of occasions already on this show, had a real torrid time at fullback, and that's through no maybe fault you'd say of his own, because like we said with Ange, he's been put there. And Miles made that point during the initial period of the show. But I do urge you, just go and watch Archie Gray and the build up to that goal, because there's a lot of good things there. And I think it's really important that when you have defeats like this, you try and also look for some of the positives rather than the negatives. Now, look, this comes on to the next point where I can't really dress up this next one in terms of being a positive, because I can't really understand what Fraser Forster is doing in this moment. So we'll go to Jason McGovern, who can tell us, maybe if he can tell us what he knows what Fraser Forster is doing in this moment, because quite frankly, a big let off the Spurs. Osimhen at one point was played through on goal. Forster gets a strong hand to it, but we're fast forwarding a bit later in the game here. which I will come on to. But Fraser, bless him.
I was going to say, we've missed 2 goals now.
We have missed 2 goals. You have to forgive me. But Fraser Forster in general on the night, I will just come to you very quickly on this. Is it a case now that maybe we look in January for a goalkeeper that is available? We're going to register him in the next stage of the European competition because we don't disrespect to Fraser. We can see really he's up against it at the moment. Is that fair? I know I'm jumping ahead. We'll come back to the goals itself, but fair point or not fair point?
Well, I wanted one in the summer. I think there's more problems as well. I mean, obviously you're further into cup competitions later on, so it's not so easy to rotate. Yeah, you might get a FA Cup 3rd round tie at home to, I don't know, Wigan or someone like that, but you don't want him playing the semi-finals against Arsenal, do you?
You don't.
The only problem you've got is if you bring one in, you've still got to be mindful of the registration rules. So it's got to be English. It's got to be, you know, better than the 2 youth team keepers. So, you know, what you're going to do, what you're going to bring in. You're not probably going to bring in that much better than him, are you, at that stage? So that's the only thing. If you can bring in an overseas goalkeeper that's a genuine number 2, then that's another player that you've got to leave out the squads. So that's the other balancing that you just got to be careful of.
I agree. And like I say, I mean, in that moment, which I will come on to, it was actually a big let-off. Osimhen was played through, Forster got a strong hand on it, a low effort, and then Mertens bend the follow-up wide at 1-1 at this point. They did have the ball in the net. I've got to say, Osimhen, again, this one was ruled out for offside. You'd say maybe this one was fairly tight on review. But, you know, he went away celebrating. I think we all feared the worst because there was this period in the game where there was real pressure being put on the Spurs goal.
Tight, mate. Miles offside.
Joe, I'm so sorry. I thought we had a different still. I've looked at the still thinking this is definitely not tight.
I mean, come on, man.
Honestly, where is...
that is later than when you started the show, fam. That's how much offside that is, son.
You can tell. Don't give me a job in Stockley Park for God's sake. If I'm claiming that one's a close one, Jesus Christ!
Fairly tight. Bloody hell. What's going on here?
The good thing is, listeners and audio won't have a clue what's going on. It's just the viewing audience that I'm really worried about. How many nearly 3,000 watching this thinking, what is he talking about? No, you're fair. That one wasn't fairly tight. I think the slide we had beforehand was a little bit tighter. But yeah, I mean, look, rightly given as offside. And at that point in the game, look, offside given. Spurs at that point were doing really well, actually, up until that point to silence the crowd. But they were getting lively again. We had a moment where Gabriel Sarr went on an amazing run, slipped through Osimhen. Again, Fraser Forster made a good save. I will make this point. I think we said it in the opening of the show. Fraser faced 28 shots on his goal. He did save 8 of them. He did save 8 of them. And again, you know what? It's crazy.
Didn't he? He actually saved. He was man of the match, actually, Rick. What do you think?
He wasn't. He wasn't.
Fraser was man of the match.
He wasn't. He was not man of the match. Look at that.
What's he doing there, though? Big phrase.
No
what
idea.
are you actually doing, man?
I know, and I feel bad because Jason.
It is a monster.
Jason's right, I've gone 2 goals ahead as well, which is even worse.
Unbelievable.
But look, eventually it is 2-1. And what an absolute mess of a goal. I mean, Osimhen scores again for the host. Miles, coming over to you. Mess of it, really. Bergwijn has an opportunity to pass to Maddison, but turned back inside. Then the ball was worked across the defence, and Dragoshin turned into trouble. The ball was played to Osimhen. He stabbed it in. I mean, not even I can defend this one, Miles. I mean,
no, there was so many.
It was a bad goal.
Yeah.
It was a bad goal.
There was catalogue of errors. Like first, Bergwijn gets caught, and then he's playing the back to Davis. I personally thought Davis played a short pass to him, right? But then Dragoshin's got to make a decision. Does he play it back to the goalkeeper, or does he go across him? And he shouldn't have really gone across him because he had Osimhen, and I can't remember who the other guy is, right next to him, because Porro is completely gone inverted because that's where he wants to play. And I just think, yeah, the decision making from all 3 was just so bad, and then it was just such a great finish. Like you give a striker of that quality that time, he's going to put it in the back of the net. There's just no defending it. And actually, Ange's right. When you look at the whole game in that first 60 minutes, we just weren't keeping the ball. And that's all it was. We just wasn't keeping the ball very well. Everything was misplaced, and it just didn't do the team no favours. And that's why if you go to the last 30 minutes, right, and that goal really epitomises what had happened, is because They kept the ball. They weren't misplacing passes, and everyone was on the ball. So it just meant Galatasaray were chasing shadows in that last 30 minutes, and that's why they got tired. But yeah, that goal just summed up the whole half, basically.
Oh man, I think it's summed up my performance so far. Go on, Macca.
Yeah. You make a really good point there about the tired thing, because I thought the drop off from Galatasaray was really noticeable, wasn't it? I mean, and that was I suppose that was my frustration, and I suppose everybody's frustration is the fact that if we'd have managed to keep 11 players on the pitch, we'd have probably end up winning the football match because of that. I mean, the drop off, and this is the thing I think that Ange Ball is about as well. It's about grinding. I mean, Man City do it brilliantly, probably the best in the world at doing it, but they grind people, the team into, they think, I can't get the ball back, or I'm tired, or I can't run anymore. I can't, because what they were doing in the first half and in the first 10 minutes of the second half was that literally the pressing was a joke. Like, we couldn't handle that press, and that's why we couldn't keep the ball and kept giving it away and all that sort of stuff. But actually, in the last, like you say, when last half an hour, whatever, when we had 10 men, they dropped off massively, and it is frustrating, because I think that's part of our game plans. Why we have bursts underground, we have these kind of 15-20 minute bursts, or 10-15 minute bursts of absolute brilliance, and we end up blowing teams away. Typically, scored 2-3 goals or 3-4 goals in that period, and then the game's done. And we just couldn't do that tonight because of the 10-men situation and how it panned out.
Yeah, that's fair points. I mean, look, we've discussed that goal at length now. I feel like that second goal, it was slow, it was sloppy, it was careless from Tottenham. What actually made me laugh, Jason, I don't know if you spotted it at all. I don't know if they showed it on the cameras, but Vicario immediately rushed off the bench to urge the players up the pitch. He's almost become kind of Ange's second in command now. I mean, I've even seen the kind of Korean coverage there is. He's up on his feet at every opportunity to where players should go, urge them to get forward. He applauded a Fraser Forster pass as well in that first half. And you know what? There was a point where Son had a great chance.
Just one, Rick. You can only applaud one. Right? There's only one to applaud.
Yeah. I mean, there was at one point where Son had that chance. It left Ange absolutely furious. And at that point, again, forced to save low before they got the third goal. What do you make of Vicario's role, Jace, on the bench when he's not playing? Is that an interesting one? I mean, it's part of that leadership group, isn't it?
Yeah, but sit down and shut up. You're a goalkeeper. You're not a coach. You're not the assistant manager. Do your speaking in the dressing room, but I don't want to see that from players on the side of the pitch. Like I say, when you get to the training ground in the little confines, make sure you have a go at them after a game like Palace. I'm totally in favour of. But pick your targets. Don't just target Archie Grays and Bergvales. Pick on Romero's, pick on Van der Ven's, pick on Madison's as well. But like I say, I don't want to see that on the touchlines from a player, regardless of who the player is. That's what your coaching staff is there. That's what Matt Wells is there for. So, no, I'm not in favour. I think it's a joke. I think it's a joke. You should be told, "Oi, sit yourself down, boy. You're not the coach."
I find that interesting. I mean, Miles, what's your take on that? Because if there's a problem, I'm sure Ange would have pulled him up on it. He's not shy in telling players his feelings. I mean, do you have a problem with it? Can you understand it?
For me, it's one of them. It depends on Ange. It really does depend on Ange. If Ange doesn't see there being a problem with it, for me personally, I probably wouldn't want my players doing that, because it kind of shown that I get the leadership group and everything like that, but it reminds me of Cristiano Ronaldo when he was doing the exact same thing for Portugal, and it's kind of like he's undermining the manager kind of scenario. But if Ange is completely on board with it, I'll sit back and go, yeah, go ahead. So I do actually agree with Jason, but at the same time, I do agree with the point of, if Ange, as you said, if Ange doesn't have one issue with it, then let him get on with it. But as long as he's he's got to pick on the right people, because Jason's right. He's usually picking on the youngsters, and when he's shown in public, and he should probably, when it's Van der Ven and the Vicarios of this world, Van der Ven and Romero's of this world, that's when I want to see him do it as well. So it's got to be fair game.
Just the one crackers up. Just the one crackers up now. I'm gonna get Lee's opinion as well. Sorry, Crack.
just Rick, get Bridgie or Ali Gold or someone to ask him in the next presser what he makes of it.
It's an interesting one, Mac. Have you have a view on that for you? I know you love players being leaders, and showing their balls, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, is it undermining the manager? Is it? I mean, or is that sensationalism for saying that?
I'm kind of with the boys on this, to be honest. I think that look, actually, what you just said, if Andy's got a problem with it, then it wouldn't be happening, would it? Let's be fair. So he ain't bothered. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. But I do, yeah, I'm with Jason and Marlon on this one, to be honest. I think that, look, a lot of people criticise Ange for having his hands in his pockets and not being emotional or whatever. And now you've got somebody else doing it, and now we're criticising him. So yeah, I don't think anyone can win. I just think my opinion is that have that conversation with your teammates. It almost sometimes feels like that you're above them or you're better than them if you can do that. Do you know what I mean? But we go back to captains and leaders and people being leaders and captains. And back in the day, you used to have a shouter and somebody would get up and make that happen, and the John Terrys of this world and whatever. So I don't know. I think it's up to them. It's up to the group. If that's his personality and everybody knows that's his personality, I think it's okay. But from an outsider looking in, we don't know the bloke. So, by bold accounts, his parents are in the South Stand every year.
I know they are.
Wherever they go, home and away, they're having a few beers and whatever. So maybe that's just his personality. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. That was just to wind Crackers up, because we never do goalkeeper specials in Crackers. The one show he isn't bloody on, we're doing a goalkeeper special on, so forgive me. Look, this wasn't a goalkeeper special. It definitely wasn't a goalkeeper special. Unfortunately, Osimhen scores again, and it's 3-1 before half-time. And, at this point, I think we're all quite fearing, could this be a potential cricket score? Seconds before Fraser Forster denied Osimhen, he had no answer this time. A deep cross picks out the Napoli loanee. Sire puts it into the bottom corner. I mean, at this point, probably, I've got to say, Jace, he could and probably should have had 4 goals in the first half. Denied twice by good from Forster, as a goal ruled out. I mean, your thoughts going into half-time, Jace, because on the fair result of balance of play, they get ahead, we equalise, there's a quick-fire brace in there, but it just felt in that first half, I don't know if you agree, Jace, far too many passive players on that field, just simply not really showing up. Is that fair? Because you're talking about players in this opportunity of a European competition getting a chance to show the manager why I should be playing every single week in the Premier League. And I've got to be honest with you, I was stunned at half time. He could have really made 3 or 4 substitutions. And I think the nature of who he brought off, can I be honest with you, I'll come into in a second, really showed me, and I might be wrong on this, for feeling this, I really felt that he had one eye on Ipswich already to come. Is that fair or not?
Yeah, I think so. Hence why he took Sonny off. He wasn't going to go chasing the game or something. But 3-1. I said to the group, didn't I? I said 3-1 flatters us. It could have been worse. Osimhen's third got his second, their third. What a finish as well. The touch just almost like a cushioned it in, didn't he? Just a brilliant finish. Fair play to the bloke. But, he picked a gap between the 2 centre-halves, like Isak picked the gap between Saliba and Shawcross on Saturday, didn't he? So just a brilliant, perfectly picking the gap between the 2. But, yeah, I mean, I criticised Burvow earlier, but our senior players, the amount of times they gave the ball away, Dragos was a real concern all night. And there was even... there was a ball, wasn't there, that looked like it was going out for a goal kick or corner. It hit the corner flag and stayed in play. And Porro picked it up, went forward about 30 yards with it, and then gave the most simple ball from there straight to a Galatasaray player. So, when you're constantly giving the ball away, particularly when there's no pressure on you and there's such easy passes, it's one thing being closed down, but some of the giveaways were criminal. And as Lee said, when you look at the way the game finished later and how much Galatasaray tired, if we'd have kept the ball better, they would have tired a lot quicker. We'd have had them chasing the ball. And it was 100%. Balls like I say, that Porro ball was just such an easy ball to play. And to give things like that away, you're struggling at the back, you're outnumbered in midfield, and you're just playing into their hands. And yeah, we were very fortunate to go in 3-1 at half time. Incredibly fortunate.
Yeah, and also we come on to the changes Spurs make now, respectively, Bentancur, Kulusevski coming on in place of both Brennan Johnson and Heung-Min Son. Now, I mean, again, look, at half-time, as I said, you could have made a number of changes. I mean, it was one of those games where, quite frankly, there was a number of Spurs players missing on the night. And I think, if we're going to be honest with you, you would have made 4 or 5 if you could. It was really that poor. What we I think have to bear in mind is that when you're looking at certain players this season, and I think it's really important to bring into obviously the show here, that outfield players so far this season, I think when we're looking at it, Destiny Udogie has played more minutes in all competitions among Tottenham outfield players so far this season than Brennan Johnson and Heung-Min Son, was, of course, recently returned from injury. So it did feel, no disrespect to the competition and the game, and was having one eye on managing that workload. And you could argue that's probably the right thing to do, given the nature of Ipswich on the weekend. But, Miles, like I say, the start to that second half, 2 chances within the first 25 seconds of the restart for Gala. So when you're asking for a response from the players, you get that in the first 25 seconds. Then you have to follow up with that, as we touched upon earlier, that absolute mental goalmouth scramble with Forster. And I can bring that into play now and bring it into context that I don't know what was going on in that goalmouth scramble. Quite frankly, it was every man for himself, where Forster drops the ball. Bentancur makes a crucial clearance off the line. Not sure. I think it was Porro who also makes a critical block to stop Gala making it 4-1. And it was plenty of Gala pressure and opportunities. And then, remarkably, there's an opportunity for Will Lankshear at the other end, but Mozzarella saves. Osimhen at this point really should have had a hat-trick. Forster again produced is a fantastic save. And I think, again, we bring into points, and I haven't got this, forgive me, but Will Lankshear does receive a booking early in that second half. And many would say it was maybe a harsh yellow card for grappling with Davinson Sanchez, who responds by hugging the 19-year-old, putting his arm around him. They would have trained together at Spurs. So that was on the 53rd minute. And then you fast forward 7 minutes later, and it ends up being a real horrific night for Will, unfortunately. Like I say, he sees red. He gets bundled to the floor, but the referee waves play on. And then the forward brings Gabriel Seurat into play. That earns him the second yellow. He does go right through the player. And couldn't believe it. He was frustrated on the touchline. That's fair to say. Maka, is that just a case of a young player, little bit inexperienced, little bit immature? I think, in a weird way, as much as scoring will give him so much experience, I think in a bizarre way, getting sent off Maka, you touched upon this earlier, that kid would have learned so much in the 60 minutes he was on the field. And I'm not trying to patronise him, but do you agree?
No, he will. I agree. And I think it was, I don't know if you just said that, so I was just looking at some stats, but it was actually Will that gave the ball away. And then he chased back hard to try and rectify his mistake. And it's a classic, I've just gone in 2 over, that's that there. I think he gave the ball away that was on the break. So he's trying to chase him back to rectify his mistake. And yeah, he will have learned a lot from it. I think, look, was we absolutely battered every which way that we could be for that first 60 minutes when we had 10 men on the pitch? When we had 11 people on the pitch. Yeah. So actually, I don't think they laid too many gloves on us, did they? After he got sent off, and that I suppose that is the bigger frustration as well. So look, he will be beating himself up about that, getting sent off. It's not great, whatever. But him getting sent off didn't lose us the game, did it? I suppose is the point I'm making. At all, like we were already toast. I think, Marlon, you said it earlier, we effectively won the second half, if you want to do a Jose situation, isn't it? At the end of the day. So, no, but we did. And with 10 men. So, he can't beat himself up on that too much. But again, frustrating, as Jace just said as well, we've made the point, handball is about, we never stop. Is about making sure that the entire out, mentally and physically, the opposition. And we couldn't do that to a high enough standard today because of having 10 men. But that's twice now that we've played 2 European fixtures with 10 men. We played Karabakh, didn't we? Basically the whole game with 10 men.
It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Yeah.
No, it's not a good thing, but at least we're not parking the bus, Rick. You know what I mean? At least we're not sitting there just like with 10 men on the goal line. That's what some people do when they go down to 10 men, isn't it?
We've not had managers like that, have we? Have we had those before? We had a couple of those before?
No, exactly. And just quickly as well.
I'm just trying to get a reaction from Jason, bless his heart.
I know. I'm just having a look at some of these fixtures, man. Like Europe away. Firstly, our away record this year under Ange is shocking. Like that is the biggest.
You can't dress it up. It's a concern.
We're not just 100%. I'm a big like Ange and all that, and I love him, whatever. But our away record this year is shocking. But let's have it right as well. Our away record in Europe under the last 4 managers, 4, not 1, not 2, 4 has been shocking. And you're going to go all the way back to Poch even when we got to Champions League final and we're getting turned over by Inter Milan after being a goal up or whatever and losing. PSV, we're getting turned over and scraping a draw, the 2-2 in the return fixture. This is Tottenham in Europe, right? Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that we don't want it to change. I'm not saying I'm accepting it. I'm just saying that is Tottenham in Europe. So even though we were terrible today in the first 60 minutes, we've kind of been like that for 5 or 6 years under 4 different managers away in Europe. Does that make sense?
True. Oh, very true. It's true. No, it is true. It's an alarming concern. I mean, look, like I say, you touched on it there, Lee. He lost the ball, Lankshear. He was absolutely distraught, can I just say, for receiving that second yellow, Miles. And I'll make that point that I said. I think, when a player goes through an experience like this, they do learn a lot from this. And, it'll be gutted because for him, to score and to play a part in what would be obviously for him a special night by scoring for the club and, contributing to what was hopefully going to be, more than just a game that we go on and lose. I think, when things settle down, he will take a lot out of it. And again, it's one of those things where 10 years later in his career, he doesn't go for that second lunge, does he? If he's on a booking, he just doesn't do it, Miles. Is that fair?
No, that's fair. And look, it's for him right now, he's probably slightly gutted. But when he comes home, I think when he looks at the bigger picture of things, he just got his first goal in Europe and for the club. That's the most important part. We haven't been before that moment. We were getting battered. It should have been 6, 7, 8, 9, right? But actually, after that moment, the team got together. There was some team spirit, and they started playing some football, right? So yes, he got sent off, but he's had an up and down performance. But he got his first goal, and that's what he needs to think about. He needs to think about the positive going forward, not the negative, because the negative hasn't cost Spurs. None of us here tonight have gone, and even most of the comments you'll see, none of us have gone completely into him. We've just gone, it's something you're going to learn from, move forward. But as long as you're scoring goals for this club, doesn't matter about tonight. This will be just one of them moments. Do you remember Lancashire when he got his first goal in 5-6 years when he's scoring goals every week? And we'll be like, could you imagine that's how he started and look where he is now? So he's just, I'm not going to sit here and criticize him because there's no need to, because he's got that goal. Yeah, that goal he scored tonight, his movement for it, no matter how you want to put it, like you said, Archie Gray, like I said, on the ball, he's brilliant, laid a great cross. Brennan Johnson, who gets a lot of criticism, making a fantastic run, but to be in that position and to finish it still and have the composure in Turkey, let's be honest about it. All right, and you can show Forster again if you want. But but look where his movement. He's really thinking. He knows what he's thinking, and that's the bit he needs to look and go. Actually, I have scored, right? And that's better than what Richarlison's probably done in the Spurs shirt. So take the positives.
Totally agree. Listen, that's spot on. Look, at that point, like I say, sending off, Spurs do make a number of changes. Bergvall and Maddison make way. They come off for Sarr and Solanke. Look, it wouldn't be right if we don't just have a quick word on both Bergvall and Maddison. And look, it's not a witch hunt. We're not turning this into, picking out certain individuals to criticise them. But just on Bergvall, because again, I've got to be honest, this is what we're doing on the show. It is about maybe looking at certain players. On Bergvall to start with, really off the pace, I think it's fair to say, in the first half. A number of loose touches, and it results in him, turning away from a simple pass to the open Maddison, playing the ball back to his defenders with all due respect. He was given more time in the second half to maybe try and, in all due respect, try and maybe fix the errors of the first half in terms of his performance, but never really found the pace of the game. James Maddison, I've got to be honest, I think it's barely any better than Bergvall. It wasn't a performance to really show us that he should be starting on Sunday. He really struggled to make anything happen. I mean, on these two midfielders, Jace, by the levels that Kulusevski has set so far this season, are Bergvall and Maddison showing you anything really that's going to show you they're anywhere near challenging the first team, with all due respect?
No, not at the moment. I think Bergvall's... You can see there's a player in Bergvall. I think, he looks... Some of his touches and that are nice. He looks for the right passes and things, but he's just not ready to be a first-team player yet. It looks like one of those players will be great. Loan him out to a championship club second half of the season. I'm not saying he's a League One or League Two, but hopefully you can get a Norwich or someone like that where there's a little bit of demand on him, but he plays the second half of the season on loan. I don't want to go in too hard on him.
Leeds, Jace. He looked good in the Leeds kit, mate.
As long as he's not in red and white sleeves or something. Don't join Rotherham or Fleetwood or something like that. But no, I think that it just, will benefit, I think, from a decent loan spell in the second half of the season. Watford, Watford ideal type of club to go and join. But Madders was off it. No, I think, and also from the team selection anyway, Rick. I think the fact that Bentancur, Sarr, and Kulusevski were all on the bench tells you that's probably the three that are starting the Ipswich game, and then come back after the international break. Then we have to start looking at who's fit, who's available, things like that. With City, obviously that first game up, but no, it's. I'd be surprised if Madders is involved from the start on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, let's say it's not a witch hunt, but you got to call it out when you see it. Wasn't great either of them.
With Lankshear, the sad part is, he went off after about 65, 70 minutes in Hungary, didn't he?
Mm.
So he probably wasn't that far from being hooked just for the physical effort and things anyway. So, probably another 5 minutes, he wouldn't have been on the pitch. That's the shame for him. And he now, of course, will get punished doubly because he could have got minutes against Roma, at least 30, 40 minutes, might have even started that game. Now he's deprived of that opportunity.
Totally agree. Yeah, like I say, really, really sad for him. Obviously, at that point, Decky went down with shoulder injury. We did fear the worst, but thankfully he got back up, and Spurs got their, another consolation goal. Dominic Solanke on the score sheet again for us. And, in terms of the move itself, it was well played by Tottenham. It's nice to see Dominic on the score sheet, scoring goals. A lovely, lovely move from Spurs, where Kulusevski plays it into Porro. Lovely cross met by, a back flick by the striker. It's Solanke's third goal in 2 games. It's a lovely, lovely goal for him. And, it did make that kind of finish really, really anxious to the game where, we make that point really. Quite frankly, Gala should have been out of sight, but there was lots of anxiety building in the stadium. Tempers were flaring. We had Icardi have an opportunity to go through later in the game, but Dragoshin eventually cleared the ball and was actually raging on the touchline towards the end of the game because Sarr regained a pass, overhit a pass to Kulusevski, which would have led to a 1-on-1. It was a genuine chance for an equaliser. It never came to anything. And what a chance at the death for those missed it. Musiala rushes out, a header clear from Solanke. It falls to Kulu around 40 yards out. He lobs it wide. And, it's mad. You think to yourself, we could be drawing this game 3-3. It honestly was that crazy.
I just want to say, Rick, quickly, for all of us that were saying Sanchez looked the best defender on the pitch, he's still nowhere near Lankshear when Lankshear scores, and he's his man. Yeah. And he still lets Solanke walk straight past him for the second goal.
Yep.
So, even Dav still looked the Tottenham Dav.
Yep. Like I say, could have been a really, really different night. It could have been. But like I say, it does end 3-2. It means Spurs have still got work to do in the Europa League. Jason made that point. We have got games coming up. AS Roma to come. Of course, Elfsborg as well. It isn't job done. Maybe I am wrong. You heard me at the start of the show calling it a free hit. Maybe I have jumped the gun there because Jason does make that point. In terms of January, we've got a lot of fixtures coming. There are some tough ones in there. And look, whatever we say or think in terms of that game, we are going to need to pick up more points in Europe to consolidate and qualify. So what we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of this show for our listeners and audio. Taking you into that break, you're going to hear from Talking Town, the Ipswich Independent podcast, to give you their thoughts ahead of the game that we've got on Sunday. We're going to go there right now for a quick 5. Miles, I'm going to come round to you. I think you made this point, and don't tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth here. We'll know maybe if that team selection was right or wrong based on what we see on Sunday versus Ipswich. We're, just to be very, very clear, not that we've got an overload of a Dr. Tottenham doctor in a coat with a Tottenham logo coming on. Ipswich are unbeaten. Unbeaten? Ipswich have that's how I'm playing this up. Ipswich have not yet won a game in the Premier League this season. They're coming to Spurs next. Every Spurs fan knows what's coming when I say that, all due respect. Miles, it does feel like it's a massive game for the club. Yeah. It's an opportunity, can I just say, if Spurs win, they could be as high as 3rd. If they lose, they could be as low as 12th. And that pretty much sums up life as a Tottenham fan. Could be high as 3rd, could be low as 12th. Miles, very quickly, take me away on Sunday. How do you see that game going? What do you see happening? Give us a prediction.
Well, hopefully we go 1-0 down quite early. because that seems to be the Tottenham way at the moment. So I'll get really worried if it's 0-0 for a very long time. But no, look, if Spurs play anything like they have done at home this season, I don't think we have anything to worry about. Like I said, if the confidence within most of that team that ended the game and they follow that into Ipswich, I'm hoping, and I should be hoping, it should, again, I don't think we'll get a clean sheet. That's just not Spurs' way. But it should be, if Ipswich play anything like they have done for their previous games, like the way I've seen them play, then we'll pick them off. However, if McKenna decides to change it and look at what Brighton did to us and Palace did to us, it could be a really hard afternoon, especially considering the home games we've had. But right now, I've got to take it as McKenna's going to do exactly what he's been doing. And like I said, hopefully we do go 1-0 down in the first 10 minutes so we can win 3 or 4 and make it quite easy. But for me, Solanke is the main man. I'm going to stick up for him there every week. I don't care when he has a bad game. He's my new little hero in the Spurs shirt. Because even tonight when he came on, I have to say he was absolutely excellent. Even though when it was 3-2 and Pedro Porro laid that ball over to him and he kind of should have taken it down on his chest and gone forward, but he went to the side. I was like, no, because I thought if he had got 1-on-1, that was 3-all. But he's the man at the moment. He seems to be in form, and I think he'll take that into Sunday as well. So I'm looking probably about 3-1, 2-1 if Spurs.
Miles, you're a star. I think I've got you booked up to January, haven't I, at the moment?
You have. My wife don't like you.
I tell you what, not a lot. I tell you, apart from, I'm not a fan of a lot of wives at the moment. Even my own, I got to tell you, I'm not winning the wives battle at the moment. I tell you what, that's why I am watching Married at First Sight, Jace. All right, before you say anything.
I'll be there with you, Rick. I'll be there with you.
I tell you what, I can tell Jason when he unmutes. He's getting loads of abuse at me. What are you saying, Jace? Is it broadcastable?
You watch some absolute crap on TV.
Honestly, Miles, I've got to say thank you so much. Please go and check out all the stuff Miles is doing on Spurs Kings TV. Him and Ash are featuring heavily with us over December, January, and beyond. We can't thank you enough, Miles. Thank you so much. Jace, we'll come over to you. You're a diamond, mate. You're a diamond. Jace, any fear about Ipswich on Sunday? I think we're all going to be pretty much going there. Should we be concerned?
No, I don't fear them. I don't fear anyone at home at the moment. That's not to say I don't think anyone can beat us, but I'm not sitting there fearful of anyone at home. Maybe Chelsea at home I'm fearful of, but that's an annual thing. No, I think
they're around the corner, fella. 5 games.
I think.
Oh God!
Don't, Lee. That's why I'm going to Thailand.
I know, but 5 games time, mate. They're coming.
Before we play them.
Jace, you know about City. They'll still find you over there if they want to. You'll know what it's like over there. They'll still find you. These newspapers, the Daily Herald will find you.
I think we beat Ipswich, but you know, if we give the ball away and defend like we did today, then we'll definitely make life hard for ourselves. And Ipswich have what they've done. They've led in a lot of their games, haven't they? Ipswich. They have. They've been really unlucky. I mean, even recently, 93rd minute they were leading. I think at one point in one of the games. So it's been really unlucky, Ipswich. So they probably should have a few points more than they've got, and at some stage they will win a game. But you know, I would certainly hope that we'll have enough to beat Ipswich Town at home. That's for sure. Amen. Now, Macca, I know you've got to bounce. I need to ask you 2 very, very quick things because we haven't got time to cover this story in detail. But you were very much this morning raging over an article that got published by The Guardian over a certain section about Hugo Lloris stating that he can't quite believe, just to be very, very clear. Jace brought this to our attention very quickly, where for those that have missed this in the article in The Guardian that was published, what are we now? It was on the 7th of November, forgive me, on Thursday, in which Hugo Lloris, in his autobiography, which is already available to purchase, has come out and said that Daniel Levy gave the squad watches engraved Champions League finalist, in which, for those that can view this obviously show live and are watching this back on the rerun, are able to see the actual quote that came out here. But just to paraphrase very, very quickly on this, we all do have one ingrained memory from this Champions League run. 4 days before the final, Daniel Levy calls us all together to announce that with the support of a sponsor, we would each receive a luxury avatar watch from the club. At first, we were excited to see the elegant boxes. Then we opened them, discovered that he had the back of each timepiece engraved with the player's name and Champions League finalist 2019 finalist. Who does such a thing at a moment like this? I still haven't got over it. I'm not alone. If we'd won, he wouldn't have asked us for the watches back to have winner
engraved instead. It's probably the most, how do I put this, brutal cutting that Lloris has been since leaving the club, which is quite interesting, Lee. I know, mate, we've got a bounce as well, but very quickly, Jason Holmes is here. Your thoughts on that comment, and then lead us into Ipswich as well for Sunday, please.
Yeah, no, I will. And get Jay to come back in on the book because he's actually reading it. He's actually got it physically. Look, I mean, I think it's quite damning, isn't it, from a player, a captain that's been at the club for over 10 years, played over 300 games for us. And yeah, it might be sensationalizing certain things to sell the book and all that sort of stuff. But, there's no smoke without fire. So, I often get criticised on social media, don't we all? But I often get criticised thinking people think I'm on the payroll, we're leaving, all that sort of stuff. But if that is the case, right, that has happened, it just embeds everything that is wrong with this culture of this football club. Like to actually just put in there finalists, it's almost like you're happy to be there. You're happy to take part. Now, Chelsea, for example, if that was Chelsea, they would have never have written that. And we'd give Arsenal a load of grief for like having the stand ready, the Premier League winners and all that. But at least had the belief in their football club that they were going to win it. Whereas this just shows the lack of belief or the lack of mentality to win, and that is a cultural thing, in my opinion. So when Jay sent that to me this morning, I was very vocal on the WhatsApp group because I was like, I ended up posting it on my X account as well. But I'm just like, that for me just sums up everything that's about. And this isn't about negative or being positive. I'm positive. I support the team. I'm a football supporter. I support Tottenham Hotspur. It doesn't necessarily mean that I am delusional as well, to be fair. I was going to say I'm not delusional, but actually I am. But this sort of thing, and there's loads of excerpts I'm sure Jason will come on to in a second about the book. But and we're not promoting the book either, by the way. We're not endorsed to promote the book, just so
not yet. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, but we might get Hugo on in a couple of weeks. But the reality is that if that really happened in that way, the way that's written, there's a few things that riled me about that. Right, the first thing actually is the fact that he's had it engraved with finalists rather than winners, or rather than waiting or whatever. And there's a mentality in there. It's like we're just happy to take part. The second part of that, when you're thinking about it, is it was as a case of the sponsors. So it wasn't even a gift from the club. It was the sponsors giving them the watches so they can wear them in press conferences and get more advertising, which again is absolutely ridiculous. The third thing that makes me die about it as well is that these watches are very, very expensive. Like, some of us have Rolexes, some of us have Breitlings, some of us Omegas, whatever it is, right? They're very expensive watches. But these footballers, they can afford that with like half a week's wages. So it's not even like the whole gift thing is not even a gift. And I think that's the point that Hugo's making, isn't it? It's actually a bit of so is that the mentality then? And I find that even the fourth point, and probably the biggest one, is that for a guy that had been there for that long at the football club, why? This is part of the leader. He's a captain. This is the leadership team, and this is the sort of stuff that's going on in the background, in the changing rooms. When we're in a Champions League final, why are we playing Kane? Why are we doing this? This is the stuff that's happening right there. That's why the mentality of these players, the football club, the culture. Are we ever going to have a chance, Rick? That's my worry. We're getting a year old. Every year it goes past, we're getting older. And we're thinking, are we ever going to? And then later on in the book, he talks about sacking Jose 4 days before the cup final, which everyone knows my views if you listen to this show or watch this show all the time. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm not Jose's biggest fan. Jason definitely isn't. But I think we can all agree that having Jose in a cup final because we hired him to win a cup would absolutely give us the right chance. And this football club, the hierarchy in this football club, didn't give him the chance. Because of money. It was a monetary scenario. And you just think every single time. There's another bit in that book that talks about the Amazon documentary, I think that we paraphrased. And it was a massive shock to all of the players and the leadership team thinking, what we're going to have. And they're going to get paid 10 million quid, the club. This is written in the book, 10 million quid. And when the players ask, because we're participating, do we get a fee for that? No. So again, financial, monetary. I mean, it's like every single time. So it got my goat this morning, big time. And for people that say, "Oh, Lee, you're a Levy lover, you're this, that, and the other," no, I'm a Tottenham Hotspur supporter. And it just so happens that Daniel Levy and the board, Donna Cullen, they own and run the football club. And I haven't, unfortunately, it's a work in progress, right? I've got to be honest with you. Unfortunately, I ain't got 4 billion to come and buy him out. Like, it is a work in progress. One day, maybe I'll get there. But certainly I ain't got 4 billion to come and buy him out. So that is the frustration, is that when somebody does, then maybe we get some change. And maybe we get some batshit people come and take the club over and put us in League Two. So, or we get some people that actually make us win some stuff. But yeah, sorry for the big waffle, but you put it up. You riled me because I didn't
mean to. I just want to get a comment on it because you were passionate about it. Yeah, I didn't want to derail us. I mean, can I just get very quickly on this? Just cut the words on it from Miles and Jason very quickly. And we're going to come back to Lee to close the show for the.
If I've overreacted, Marlon, I don't know if I've overreacted.
Miles, very quickly, your take just on the article. I'm not sure if you've read the whole thing or snippets of it.
I read snippets of it. My biggest concern at the moment, it seems to be a common theme. Hugo Lloris, Glenn Hoddle, Paul Gascoigne, who's next? There's some stuff like, these are legends now that are coming out and actually saying stuff against the club, which, you know, there's a lot of us fans that have been frustrated, and now the legends are going and it's all about financial. And even David Pleat recently, it's just not looking good on their part. So that's where I sit with it. I'm not going to tell it, like, I won't sit here and say how I feel about the whole thing, but that when you start to see reading stuff like this coming out negatively in the past few weeks, there's something in it. And that's what people now need to understand, is whether football's first or finances first. And that's the way I look at it.
Miles, thank you so much. Jace, very quickly, you had a chance there to hear Miles and Lee's comments on this. I had to bring it up because, I mean, you know, Lee, bless him, was so passionate about it this morning. I thought, how can I not mention this during the show? Just because naturally it does affect people in different ways. And Macca, you know, for you, again, it illustrates that point that for those that call you, I mean, whatever they want to call you about, the biggest sort of crap about being on the payroll or whatever, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, the amount of money you spend on this football club, home and away, doesn't bear thinking about. Can I just make that very, very clear? Plus the merch, plus everything else you bloody spend on the football club. But I think it's really important that, you know, when you read articles like this, you do get fan opinion, you do get fan views, because, I mean, what's your take on it, Jace, very quickly? Let's go mute, Jace. It's always the way.
The book came through the door at like 5 o'clock from Amazon, and kickoff was, what, 5:45? So
don't give me that. You've seen the snippets.
But I just wanted to see what their reaction was to Jose being sacked, because you all know I despised him, but not even I would have sacked him in the week of a cup final. Even I've said that's bizarre decision. And even for the financial thing, if you hire a manager to win you a trophy and you agree to pay him a bonus if he wins it, why is the bonus suddenly a problem? Go and win it, and you know, you agree with it, and you can still deal with moving on from him. But it is interesting to see Hugo say that he'd lost, you know, that old phrase, he'd lost the dressing room. He certainly had clashes in the dressing room with a number of players, but that's probably what we knew. But I thought Hoddle on the Gary Neville show, the overlap, where he said, you know, what does to dare is to do mean? Because they're not really doing it at the moment. And then was very critical, and he pointed out the sacking of Mourinho in the week of a cup final, when you've, you know, it is bizarre that you've employed a man to win a cup final and he's got all the way to that week and then you sack him. It is, you know, like I said, I never wanted him there, but if there was ever a week that I wouldn't have sacked him, that was the one week. It'd be interesting to see what Hugo says, you know, through there around the Champions League final.
Crazy.
around Poche's sacking and things like that. I presume the Daily Mail was it the Daily Mail that's
they'll get scooped. They will get segments, won't they? They'll get segments from the book to endorse it
tomorrow, and probably another segment on Friday.
I think.
Or it is Friday, isn't it? Yeah, they'll get another segment tomorrow, I'm sure. But yeah, it'll be an interesting read over the next 48 hours or on a Bangkok flight.
Amen. Right. Can we get a prediction? Let's go very quickly. Let's close on the. I don't need to bring a downer on the show, but again, just you have to get opinions. You have to get opinions. You have to get opinions when there's stuff like this.
Just quickly on that, just to cover that bit off. What do you think?
I have to say this now. I've been very clear on my view now for a long time. So it'd be a hypocrite for me not to say what I've been saying behind closed doors and coming on to here. I've said this now for a very, very long time that I feel so disconnected under the current ownership. And I'm at a point now where I'm 100%, 1 billion%, 1 trillion% ready for change. Whatever that looks like, you know what, can I be honest here? I'm prepared to accept. Even if that means we go backwards for a period, I'm prepared to accept that. I just feel that in the current scenario that we're in, I don't want to liken it to Mike Ashley at Newcastle because they were literally just putting money in to stay up. We're not like that. But with all due respect, and you know how much I love you boys and love doing the shows on here, I need to feel in my heart of hearts that we can win, we can be ambitious. And with all due respect, I don't feel football's first, back to what Marlon said. And that is the concern for me. I think, unfortunately, there is other things that are going on in and around the club that have unfortunately taken their eye off the ball at certain times. And I would love to sit here and think, I think for Ange, football is first. I think for the players, football is first. I don't think for the hierarchy, football is first. And that is my biggest concern, that when you're looking at the very, very top of the club, if at the very, very top, that is not the focus, it is very, very hard to achieve success in anything. Carabao Cup, League Cup, Premier League, Europa League. If your ambition is not to achieve and to win trophies, with all due respect, you heard what Daniel said in the fans forum on certain matters. You could argue and say, why did he say about the Carabao Cup? Is it the case of reaching the Champions League was more spectacular? If you want to put it like that. He went out the players' watches ingrained as a finalist. Didn't even wait to the end of the final. Maka, I agree with every word you said. Like, what kind of mentality does that set when you're engraving finalist and not waiting for the final? I just don't understand it. I don't get it. And there's, again, I'll be honest with you, a number of things over the last few years that have led me to be very, very uncomfortable with how the club has been run. And I'm at a point now where I say, I'm honest, I'll say it as it is, I've always done. I am open now to change, and it needs to happen for this club to really, in my opinion, get back to the primary focus of the motto that this club has around the training ground, has around the stadium, to dare is to do. I need to see more doing. I need to see more daring, and I need to see that in a combination where I made the Hoddle mistake there, daring and doing around the wrong way. I need to see that happening for this club to be successful. So, on that point, let's go to Maka.
You've done a Glenn Hoddle there.
Yeah. The Glenn Hoddle there. Maka, prediction.
The other thing, just to say is that Hoddle did say on the overlap.
Oh, it's spot on.
If Levy was in charge of himself, he'd have sacked himself.
Yep.
Yeah, he did say that. He did say that. And actually, Crackers have said that a lot of times as well. I need to be fair to Crackers. I know he's in the chat as well. I mean, I don't know what Vernon's beef is in the chat. I mean, he or she clearly has not listened to a word I have said on this show at this segment. I mean, it's just mind-blowing that you are saying for me to get off the stream because I can't handle the truth. The truth about what I've just brought up. Unbelievable. Look, here's the thing, right? What I would say about the culture. This is what I do. This is my business. I do this stuff all of the time. And you've said this so many times, Vic, and we all have as well. The culture comes from the top. And it's not about just putting signs around to dare is to do. And there's no statues. There's no history. There's no history of winning. There's nothing around the stadium. It's an amazing stadium. I love it. I love going to the stadium. But there's nothing around there that showcases to anybody this is who we are. Tottenham Hotspur are, and I said it earlier, in our away form over the last 5 years in Europe, we are a bit batshit when it comes to away games in Europe. 5 years. This is who we are, Tottenham Hotspur. We go behind, we win games. We have a soft belly. We're fifth in the Premier League. Yeah, if you look at the history of the Premier League, this is what we are. We're fifth out of everyone. And it's only because Man City were in bloody Division 2 or whatever it was that we're not sixth. Let's have it right. But we are fifth. So on average. So at the end of the day, what you've got to look at is we are where we are. Have we got any further forward under this ownership over the last 25 years? Yes, nice stadium. Yes, F1. Yes, all the good stuff. And I'm not criticizing any of that. I actually like all that stuff. I think it's great. I love seeing the NFL. I love all that. But at the end of the day, it is about winning. And I'm not criticising Ange. This is not an Ange thing. It's not even a Jose thing. It's not a Conte thing. It's not even a Nuno thing. Nuno's third in the Premier League, by the way. For me, this is a cultural thing in the club. And unfortunately, this is Vernon, this is the truth, mate. The fans have a problem as well. The fans are a problem as well, because we also don't believe. And you can come at me all you like about positivity and this, that, and the other. But the reality is, if you live your life in a negative state, in a miserable state, you will not achieve. You will not do it. Yeah. And I'm telling you, from somebody who's a winner, from somebody who's done and gone on to do amazing things, in business and in work and in private life, and I'm sure you all have as well. But you go and have a look at the things that you've done and tell me, if you've been negative or miserable and live in that doldrum, there is no way that you are going to be successful. And the decisions at this football club seem to be made based on an abacus, based on a spreadsheet. Okay, does it make sense to sack Jose Mourinho 4 days before cup final? Well, if we win it, we have to pay him X. If we sack him now, we only have to pay him Y. Now, that is not fact. That is my opinion. It's not factual. I'm not giving you any breaking news here, but that's what it seems like all the time. And until look, there's a thing, in the realist versus negative, that in itself is a negative connotation. When people say to you, yeah, but, is it a negative? Yeah, but I really like Ange, but no, it's negative. Forget the but, forget the ifs. It's when we're going to win. It's how we're going to win. It's not if we win or.
I think that's the problem, Marco, isn't it? Is there enough? Is there enough there? Is there enough?
Psyche, because we don't win. We don't win anything. We're not good enough. We're okay. I was in Madrid, by the way. I was in Madrid watching the final. In the final, 26 seconds in, bang, handball. See that? I was there. I was in the stadium. Like thousands of us watching it live in the stadium. It was heartbreaking. And then what? When you read that book, you excerpt that book, and Hugo says, I don't think people understood the magnitude of what we was in that moment. We might never get to a Champions League final ever again. And he wasn't just talking about, he was talking about from a player's point of view.
Yes.
I read it as a fan. I'm thinking,
as a Tottenham fan,
might never, ever be in a Champions League final again. Do you understand where I'm coming from? So this is why the fan base, the club, the culture, it has to be as one. And Ange might win us a trophy. I hope he bloody does. Ange might end up being, the person that maybe even wins us one of the bigger prizes. But when Ange moves on, what ends up happening? What ends up happening after that? Make sense?
It makes total sense. I mean, it goes back to, the points that we make here that, what we want is to see the club as the emphasis as being first in everything footballing terms. That's all we want to see.
And that's why. Sorry to interrupt you, but this is the thing. When Ange comes out and says that, he gets criticised. Ange comes out and says, I want to win. Poch was the same. Poch came out and said,
there needs to be
I'm not interested in the Carabao Cup. I'm interested in the big prizes. And people are like, do one, Poch, what are you on about? We're losing to Rochdale, wherever we're losing to. You give me the stats, Cambridge or wherever it was. Colchester, sorry, forgive me. And we're losing. Yeah. But we get to a Champions League final because the mentality under that manager was, wow, we're going to do this. But we clearly now know from Hugo's comments that the club didn't think that we could do that stuff. They didn't think, but Poch did. And in the end, when you listen to the struggle, the leadership team, the struggles, the manager after that final, that's where it all went tits up. And he writes that in the book. And this is the thing, Ange might get us over there. But what does that change, team? Well, that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking, what does that change? Nothing. Yeah. It doesn't change anything until it changes, to coin a phrase from Cracker. Sorry to interrupt you, Rick, but this is the thing.
Yeah, I know we've got to go. Just very quickly, Jace, I think you've said this point. I just need to quickly squeeze us in. You've made this point, Jace, that a cup win doesn't necessarily always mean that they will become, continual success. I mean, you said it under Ramos, I think, when we won the cup. What did actually that do at the time? I mean, it's all very well winning a cup, but it's about, I think, as Macca has said, and I think Miles said as well on the show, it's trying to find sustained success. And to be fair to Ange, whatever I've said previously about his tactics or whatever I've said about the high line or whatever I've said, that man does talk if he's in the long term, not just here to do something tomorrow and then piss off. Does that make sense? He looks like it is about actual sustainment of success. I know we've got to go, but really important that I make that point, Jason, that you come back on that point.
Yeah, we don't just want to win the Carabao Cup and then nothing for another 16 years, do we? It's got to lead to something, and that's where that old, I suppose, the old debate of whether you're better to finish in the top four, because that should give you the exposure and the finance and things to be able to invest in your squad and the knock-on effects. But when has any of our Champions League seasons actually really benefited us over the overall squad? Who's the player we've attracted because we've been in the Champions League? And actually, you look at probably our most successful signings, like Romero, like Van der Ven, they all came without being in the Champions League. So, but absolutely, when we win something, it can't just be another 16 years before it happens again.
I agree. Listen, I think we all give it thoughts. I mean, Miles, I'm sure, I saw it's a conversation that not everyone wants to have, but it needs to be had, right?
Yeah.
Is it fair, Miles? It needs to be said.
No, what all three of you have said, I'm sitting here and I'm taking it all in, and you've all been spot on in everything you've been saying, and it's stuff that's been obviously bugging me for years, but to hear it come from you guys especially, I can't be, I'm just like, yes. At least sometimes I think people are not on the same page as me, and it's just like exactly what I've been thinking for a few years, and it's just, I'm glad to see that people are starting to realize it. And maybe it's taken something like Hugo, who was at the club for what, 10 years, nearly 10 years.
Exactly.
Maybe it's people are starting to realize that he's not just saying this is what's going on. So yeah, can't agree with you lot anymore.
Okay,
I'm just going to read one quick excerpt. Just
oh my God.
Come on, Jay, the cricket's on.
Yeah, come on, Jace, the cricket's on. I can't remember saying it back to him. It's taken me 7-8 years to get there. Thanks, Macca.
We found Levy, a hard-nosed businessman seeking to benefit from every situation. In 2018, after I won the World Cup with France, Daniel called me into his office. I'm happy for you, Hugo. I'd love to reward you for this. I'd love to give you a bonus, but in return, you must give me a unilateral option for a year's extension at the end of your contract. Are you negotiating here, Daniel? I said, I'm happy to, but this is a totally different conversation. From that day on, I never heard back from Levy. We never talked figures. I never took it personally, but it's business. There you go.
I
lose a World Cup winning goalkeeper. I need an extension without paying you any more money.
I've got no words. I've got no words.
No words. I know it's unbelievable. And look, I will just bring a bit of balance by saying that we don't know the other side of the story. Obviously, it's a book and blah blah blah. But come on, man. I mean, this is just it's a fantastic read. But get it up again, Jace. What's that book? Make sure everyone starts reading it. It's absolutely Mate,
that'll go at number one by tomorrow after listening to this.
And you got to bear in mind, he was captain of the club.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is the thing, and
the thing. Go on, Macca, please.
No, I was going to say, this is the thing I posted about Glenn Hoddle getting the motto wrong, and I did it in jest. I put a funny face up there and whatever, and loads of people, I think Vernon's one of them, going caning me on social media about, he's a club legend. He can. But it's credibility, isn't it? To do is to dare is not our motto. So it got a bit more exposure, and if it starts to expose even more things, then great. I think the point that we're making is that all is not well. Clearly, at the top. That's Kev G.
Definitely not going to be in the Spurs. Definitely won't be in the Spurs for that one. I mean, if Pleaty's ain't in there, I can tell you, Hugo's definitely won't be in there. Just to be very clear.
I mean, we're coming to Ipswich. I know we've got to wrap up. I'm sorry, mate, but you.
It's not your fault. I was on the start of the bloody conversation. I started the bloody conversation. It wasn't you.
No, here we go. Look at that. I think
that's actually. It's actually there's the only picture of him in a Spurs shirt in the entire thing.
Says a lot, doesn't it?
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it?
10 years.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Crazy.
10 years. Captain got one picture in a Spurs shirt.
No,
go on, Macca. Please take your point.
No. Okay, look, I'll come on to the Ipswich game. Look, I think at the end of the day, they've Ipswich are conceding over 2 goals per game. Yeah, and Spurs are scoring over 2 goals per game. And actually, we're scoring even more at home. We're at home. Ipswich are winless, but he does play good football, and I agree with Marlon. If he comes to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, changes it up. because it's like Gary O'Neill or like doing an M&F last season, going, oh yeah, this is how you beat Spurs, and everyone go, oh okay, if McKenna does that, then okay, we might be in for a bit of a game. But they're actually quite a good footballing side, Ipswich, to be fair. But they've conceded a lot of goals. I mean, they shipped 4 at home to West Ham. They've shipped 2 to Villa. They shipped 2 to Everton as well. I mean, then not a great side. Just at home as well. Just shipped 4 to Brentford. And to be fair, I watched that game, and although they scored 3, and they had a geezer sent off as well, it could have been 5 or 6 as well, either way. So I think it could be a bit of it might be a game like we had tonight, to be fair, like the Galatasaray. Do you remember that game? It did happen earlier. So yeah, I'm going to go for a winner, but I agree with Marlon. I think we will concede because that's just Spurs, all right? Again, so I think 3-1 Tottenham.
3-1. Okay.
And I predict us, Rick, to be 3rd in the Premier League for the next international break. Oh my days!
And it's funny thing after what we just said about the board, can we go and win the thing?
Yeah, but it won't be. It won't necessarily. Well, to be fair, I was just about to say it won't necessarily be down to them. Most of us talk about the ball, talk about the finances. And I saw a staggering stat the other day when Ten Hag got fired. Since Ten Hag was appointed as a manager, Tottenham have spent 550 million. I think, Jace, you put a stat. I was like, whoa! Like considering a club that we're 2nd behind Man United for spend since Ten Hag got the job 2.5 years ago. So Ange, like to be fair, I don't think there's a load of under pressure or whatever, but Ange is under pressure. If he spent that money, it's
not all Ange's money.
No, fair enough.
Includes like the Romero transfer, the Udogie transfer, and things like that had obviously happened before Ange got there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I think what a show. I mean, it's covered everything we could really cover on this one. You've had the Galatasaray roundup, you've had Hugo's book roundup, you've had the Ipswich preview squeezes in as well there. Look, I think if you don't know our thoughts on
prediction, I think you got away with it. What did you say?
I'll go 3-1.
Okay. Same. Marlon, and just to recap, because Marlon did it about 2 hours ago.
I think, I'm about to say, Miles, that was before I came on the show.
Last week. I think I said 3-1 as well.
Blimey, Rick, what are you going for, fella?
I'm going for 3-1 as well. 3-1 as well. Yeah. Look, can I just say, who says we don't agree? Look at that. We've all agreed. Unanimous on the board as well. What can I say?
Don't bet 3-1 on your correct score odds then.
No one bet it.
Don't do 3-1. Guys, thank you so much. Only close to 4,000 of you watching this live. Look, you've had a lot from us in terms of the show itself. Hopefully, you'll feel, like I say now, if you don't know where we stand on the board, you've had a pretty good indication of where we do stand. Because I think that's one thing that always gets brought up on this show. Last Word on Spurs don't discuss the board enough. I think we've made it pretty clear where a lot of us do stand on it. And I'm all about that point as well. When people go at Last Word on Spurs, say, what is Last Word on Spurs' view? Last Word on Spurs represents about 50 different people now. 50 different fans. So Last Word on Spurs does not have a view. Last Word on Spurs is not Marlon, is not Jason, is not Lee, is not me. Last Word on Spurs is a vehicle. We have to make that very, very clear. But listen, we thank you for all your support, always for the show. We can't thank you enough. Macca, thank you so much. Should have finished an hour ago. Oh, I'm so sorry, mate.
Respect to you, Vernon, and everyone else in the chat. I love it. Look, at the end of the day, if people call me out, I'll call you out. And that's it. Respect. We have a beer, we shake hands. Job's a good one, right? Happy days. So thank you for having me on, mate.
Always a pleasure, mate. And I'm sure there'll be love for you in the stadium on Sunday, as there always is. Macca, thank you. Jace, thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. We've covered everything we can cover, mate. Let's say we'll be in touch. We'll be seeing you on here very, very soon. Miles, thank you, mate. Absolute star. Make sure you go and check Miles out over at the Spurs Kings TV. I've said that thing for a 15th time on this show, but we're getting those endorsements in there, Miles, for you. You'll see Miles a lot more on your screen in these coming weeks and months and years. God help him, please. God help him. From Lee, from Jason, from Marlon. Go on, Jason. I can see you itching to come back in very quickly.
I was going to say, Marlon, you still haven't sent the link out of that chair.
Levy sent it to me. You can't have it.
If you want it, you got to pay treble, all right? Right, listen, we're going to close on that. From
Marlon weren't saying anything earlier because he got the chair from Levy.
I thought Miles was quite quiet on the discussion. We've got to go. From Lee, from Jason, from Miles, from myself. We've been the Last Word on Spurs. Thank you so much, viewers and listeners, for all your support. We love you. As always, keep safe, keep well. Back after Ipswich. And as always, come